Street and stimulus. Big breaking news of just this afternoon. It's incredible great news as Wall Street reacts and says, you need stimulus. Pass it right now. Minutes ago, the Dow futures, which tracks where Wall Street will open Monday morning, was released. And it's not good. It says we need stimulus, and Wall Street's shouting louder than ever before at Congress, get it done and get it done right now. So will Wall Street get the message out? This is incredible great news. I'm excited for you to join me on Street and Stimulus. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's the end of afternoon's LALATE before we go into evening's LALATE. And minutes ago, Wall Street delivered the number I had been waiting for all weekend long. The Dow futures. More about that in a second. If you've not subscribed, go to the Funds channel, subscribe. And we're going to continue the narrative into evening's LA, so I don't want you to miss the video, so make sure you hit the alert button. Also, a like of this video. It's helping so the videos appear high in the rankings today. On today's Street and Stimulus, I will go over why Wall Street is shouting louder than ever, and they have a very loud megaphone for you to get stimulus. They're shouting at Congress, do it right now. And this was the number that I was waiting for, the Dow futures, which shows where Wall Street will open tomorrow. Again, it's an indicator. It's not a be-all or tell-all, but analysts are already speaking out this afternoon, as they always do right before the markets open. Say, do the stimulus or else. Wow, this is absolutely incredible, great news. Let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news is that minutes ago, that stock futures were announced. It takes about, usually about 4 or 5 o'clock on the West Coast to hear this number each day. And as the Sunday afternoon unfolds, we now have this number. The futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down sharply this afternoon. 200 points, down 200 points. The S&P futures is down 0.6, and the NASDAQ 100 futures is down 0.5. Now, again, this is an indication of where the market may open. It doesn't mean where the market will continue. The reason for the number is lack of stimulus. First, Wall Street has had a lot of stuff to deal with since the close on Friday. First, new lockdowns. Second, lack of stimulus. Third, concern for new third stimulus or lockdown stimulus. And fourth, number of COVID-19 cases. All those are tied to stimulus. You need stimulus to get through where we are today, and you need stimulus going forward on what could conspire or happen in the next couple of weeks in the United States. You know, when we ended on Friday, Wall Street had a very bad week in regards to a lack of stimulus, making me sneeze about You know, when we ended last Friday, Wall Street was dealing with a very difficult week on stimulus. They had seen no stimulus and they had seen COVID-19 cases grow, but they were really concerned about election uncertainty and contested elections. Now, today, as we look to Monday, everything that Wall Street's focused on is stimulus. First, they're looking at England. I told you they're going to look at England. I told you that on Saturday. They're very concerned about the English lockdowns because they're saying, okay, we could be next. Where's our stimulus to get through that lockdowns? Second, they're looking at the number of COVID-19 cases. Told you they would do that as well. That was when it was 80. We left on Friday at 80,000. We're at 100,000. Could Monday be 110,000? We don't have today's COVID contraction numbers for Sunday yet. We'll have them tomorrow. So Wall Street's concerned about COVID numbers because ultimately, if you have COVID, you can't work. And if COVID numbers go too high, you'll have lockdowns. Third, they're concerned about lack of stimulus both up to this point and stimulus going forward. All right, let me go over those numbers because we all love numbers and this is a channel about numbers. First, Wall Street's concerned that you have not gotten stimulus into your hands, which is also the economy's hands, since May. They're concerned that when we look at things that are good news in the last week, that good news, which we all love, comes from good news of March. The impact of good news on March is being felt in the economy today. That does not mean the economy is good today. What it means is that it takes a few months for good news and good stimulus to flow through the economy before the economy feels that impact. That was felt last week. GDP up 34% after it was down 33% because of lockdown. So it means it rebounded 1%. Great news. Also last week, the jobless claims. Lowest number since the pandemic started. Also really great news. But Wall Street didn't trade up on it. Why? Because they said, hey, that was because we had stimulus back in March and May. We need stimulus now. And actually, this is what Wall Street said. We should have had the current stimulus in our hands now past 2 months ago, because it takes about anywhere from, depending on the stimulus package, whether it's the check we're talking about or unemployment benefits, it takes anywhere from about a few weeks to a few months for the impact of the stimulus to go through the economy. When we're talking about stimulus checks, let's talk about checks for a second. You know, if you're set up for electronic receipt, you receive the checks within 10 days. This is categorically incredible news. So if it becomes law on a Monday, 10 days thereafter, you would receive the stimulus check. That's the fastest way in which that stimulus gets into the economy. FPUC, enhanced unemployment benefits, UI, PUA, all those things, those take a while. I mean, when I launched this channel April 25th, I knew that PUA was going live 3 days later, so I was doing videos on PUA. You know how many people got PUA on April 28th for a channel that, you know, at that time had maybe 300 viewers? I think 0. Maybe 1. You know how many people just started to see it after a little while? It was about a month later. So things take a while to get for unemployment, and then that takes a while because you get the money and then you start to spend it. But you don't get, you know, $30,000 unemployment in one day. You get one check and then another check, another check. Those things filter through the economy very slowly. Hazard pay, not coming, hasn't come. And so all these things take a little bit of time to get through the economy. And that's why Wall Street's saying right now, give stimulus to Americans right now, because they needed it a few months ago. Because had they received the stimulus in August, we would have felt the impact of that stimulus in our economy now in October. See how that works? It takes about a month or two until you feel the impact in the economy. And so they're saying, okay, if you pass the stimulus right now, which you have to do, if you pass it right now, guess when we're going to start to feel the impact of it? Right around Christmas. Yeah, which is not what we want. We want to have the impact of stimulus right now. The economy is tinkering. So there's that issue. Then they're concerned about lockdowns. They're concerned about lockdowns and stimulus. And they know very, very well that if there's lockdowns, you need stimulus. When we talk about England, and Boris Johnson putting his citizens on lockdown, they're paying them a check. They're paying them a check. You talk about England, lockdown, they're paying them a check. You talk about France, they're paying them a check. They're paying them checks. S. They're paying them checks. Here, excuse me? Well, answer the question. Well, they're not doing anything. And that's what Wall Street's very anxious about. Anxious is a euphemism for pissed. Pissed out of their mind. They're like, get the lockdown stimulus ready. Write the bill, because if we have lockdowns in this country, you better have ready to send out checks. You have better ready to give money to businesses. You better be ready to give people, families and moms and kids, and all these people need checks ready to be landing in their accounts. Let me explain where Wall Street is focused today, which is that ultimately, and this is very important to understand, is that ultimately there are different elements of toughness or financial cliff or things about to hit. But when things are hitting really hard and they're starting to hit extremely hard, then the message gets very loud and clear to even the cheapest of the cheapest of the cheap GOP Republicans who don't want to spend a penny. Those people are getting shouted at by their constituents, whether it's big business lobbyists or independent contractors or moms and kids. We need stimulus. You can't do this any longer. This is what happens. is that when you don't have the stimulus, things get very bad very quickly. And that's what they're dealing with going into tomorrow. Adam Crisafulli, beautiful name, founder of Vital Knowledge, sent in a note minutes ago, just written this Sunday. The world is still largely in a holding pattern as investors await clarity on the U.S. election. The world will likely be a lot clearer in a few days thanks to election being over. But stimulus talks resume in Washington, hopefully, and further central bank support. I haven't got to that in this video, but you heard me talk about it on, I think it was on 28 and early mornings. There's a big push starting Monday. I'm not going to do it in this video for Jerome Powell to step in and start doing stuff because he hasn't done hasn't done anything. Volatility spiked to a 4-month high last week. The CBOE Volatility Index, the VIX, which follows how volatile markets are looking at, said this was fear gauge. That doesn't sound good. Fear gauge? Yeah. It said it jumped into what was termed fear gauge above 40 points last week. I told you it's very volatile. This week is expected to be even more volatile as the concern for stimulus, second stimulus, and third stimulus is hitting very hard. This is what Matt Maley, chief market strategist at Miller Tabak, sent in a note Sunday. Everyone's writing something except Congress. They're not writing that lockdown stimulus bill yet. Even though we're worried that there could be more wave down and another big influx of uncertainty, we think the stock market is now set up nicely for a nice advance over the next 2 months or so. Well, that's presuming everything else works fine, Matt. Horrible quote. Why did I even read that? What Wall Street is looking at going to tomorrow is going to be, where is the stimulus? What's going to happen with stimulus after the election? And what is going to happen with third stimulus after the election? They need real big clarity because they also understand that the quality of the stimulus, which I haven't done a lot today, the quality of the stimulus, make sure there's enough checks, make sure there's enough FPUC, make sure there's enough PPP. You need to make sure there's enough quality of stimulus, meaning robust enough, not salary raises, not bailouts of Andrew and Gavin. People need stimulus because ultimately you have a dark winter where it's super, super cold, snow on the ground. Are you going to have restaurant dining outside? No. Are you have restaurants closed? Yes. Are the employees of the restaurant going to get paid? Not if there's no PPP or EIDL or Main Street. No. And so that's why Wall Street's saying, get this done. You need to get this done because we can't have this economy left with just Walmart, Target, and Home Depot and Amazon. We have to have more than just 4 businesses in this country by the end of this pandemic. There's some incredible questions to yesterday's video. Let me get to those in a second. What I want you to do tomorrow is certainly stay with me because on the channel, in the community section of the channel, which is the textual part, it's just I can, like when I say 5 minutes to a video, 1 minute to a video coming up in 30 minutes where I type where it's just words, it's not video. It's important for you to stay with me by subscribing because ultimately I will be updating you if Wall Street crashes 1,000 points, crashes 100 points, crashes 2,000 points. All these things are very important for your stimulus because ultimately, if it gets worse for purposes of Wall Street now and very loudly worse, then that will help Congress act. I don't wish anything negative on anyone, and I don't wish anything negative on any company, but I'm going to say this very clearly, that if Wall Street takes a massive tumble next week, and I don't mean 100 points, I don't mean 300 points, I don't mean 500 points, that's not a big tumble. I'm talking about 1,000 points, I'm talking about 1,500 points, or I'm talking consecutive days of 700, 700, 700, 700. If you see the Dow down 3,000 points in a day because it's kept on going down every single day, that is going to really push Congress to do stimulus. I can guarantee you, out of my prediction, Congress is not going to sit back and do nothing. All right, let me answer some of your incredible questions and comments from yesterday's recording. Sarah, Nancy and Mitch are the Grinches who stole Christmas. Not yet. We're going to steal it right back, honey. Jolie, these politicians are really sitting up and watching the American people suffer. Jency, what is the American people government waiting for? Michelle, they have to do something. Stephen, President Trump should freeze all prices now. So Stephen's talking about cola, which I talked about in the other video, the price or stagflation, the rising prices. I talked about that with Jerome Powell. I'll talk about more on evenings and mornings LA. Cheryl, the government doesn't care. They do some some of them don't. Lionel, praying for everyone. Blessing to all. I love that. Denise, interesting. They've given those countries stimulus. Why can't they give us any? Janice, I'm a senior citizen who has not come out of the first lockdown because of health issues. I need stimulus. I just pray. I hope you're good, Janice. Thank you for tuning in. And Jessica, they rather have the virus than give us stimulus in the sense of that they rather kill us than not help us. Ooh, that's a little dark. Let's not go there. Let's keep it positive. If you have questions in today's video, which I'm sure you do, drop them in the comments below. And please stay with me because the street will react very loudly tomorrow at the opening and throughout the day for stimulus. You may see it up, you may see it down, you may see it flat, and then suddenly the stuff may hit the fan. Go to the Finance Channel, subscribe, because together we're going to get through this pandemic, and we're going to get our feet on the floor, and we're going to get through this financially sound and financially stronger on the other side. That's why we have street and stimulus. Also, like this video. As always, stay informed, stay in touch, stay with me for Evenings LA coming up as next, and stay with LA for more.